I thought I would walk you through my website and chat with you a little bit about how I look for the decisive moment when I'm out photographing. I am a professional photographer and I have a studio here in town in Fort Dodge that focuses primarily on high school seniors and publicity and portrait photography. I have downsized quite dramatically from that aspect of my photography, and now I'm really focused on street photography and my abstract work. So, this website is a massive shift from what I've had in the past, which is primarily focused on seniors and weddings and family and children. But I will tell you that I use the decisive moment in the concept within all of my work. Waiting for that moment and calculating a rhythm and knowing when to click the shutter. So I thought I would just kind of walk you through my website and talk a little bit about some of the images that I have collected and over the last couple of years. I'm going to take you to my street photography portfolio. So one of the things when I'm out shooting, and oftentimes, I really love busy cities when I'm shooting. I don't particularly love them so much, if I'm just hanging out in one. But when I have my camera in my hand, for some reason, I'm just really kind of focused and, I can get myself in a rhythm and kind of this meditative state where I can just look for and I see images pop up really quite easily. So just like simple patterns in music, things happen around us and they have a definite pattern to them. So this is a subway in Paris, and I waited specifically for this panel in the subway to get right right here in the frame, so I can kind of frame the subject. Again, there's a lot of times where I'll just look for this rhythm in walking of steps and things of that nature when I'm photographing um, people on the street. The other thing that I oftentimes will look for, excuse me, when I'm photographing street photography specifically, or if I'm in any kind of busy environment, is asking myself, so what is it that I'm looking for? And you know, it, I can't control the scene, So what is it that I'm looking for, and can I get myself in the best possible situation to take the shot? So this is kind of a prime example here. I kind of lined myself up in this composition where I could get a shot that was okay, and then I kind of organized where I was at, and then I thought it was just too busy, and then I realigned myself again. So oftentimes this is how I shoot. I'll hang out in an area and just wait for a moment to happen. The other thing, that I'm secretly kind of hoping for is a little bit of drama. And that doesn't have to be like negative drama. It could be really anything, facial expression sort of drama. Like this is a really great example of that, the facial expression on this guy. Um, it's kind of telling a story as to what's happening in that scene. I can kind of see a little bit of drama here in the face of this person as well. Again, you have a sort of a dramatic kind of pose or gesture that's here. I always look for that within my portrait work and try to capture that as well, because I think having any sort of dramatic gesture can allow the viewer to create a story. Like this is really fun. She's looking at a portrait of herself, and you can kind of see that dramatic facial expression that's there. I meditate quite a bit actually, even if it's just a few seconds, before or after a stressful event. Um, I do it, in the morning and the evening just to kind of clear my thoughts or get myself ready for the day. But the other thing that I oftentimes do is when I have my camera in my hand and I'm constantly looking for light and shadow and interesting creative angles. I'm also just breathing and trying to eliminate all of the chaos and the hustle and bustle that's around me, and just really trying to focus my energy on the visual things that are happening around me. And again, waiting for that moment. These images I'm going to kind of go through now are, I'd never been to New Orleans up until about 2 years ago. It was almost 2 years ago that we went, and we happened to be there on St. Patrick's Day, which totally wasn't planned, but really awesome for us because there are tons of parades in New Orleans during that time. And they're very different parades than what I'm used to as a child. As a child, I'm used to these really cool parade floats that were built by like the Boy Scouts or, New Sertoma. And there's lots of kids on these floats that are throwing out candy to other kids. This parade was not like that. It was mostly all men walking in this parade, drinking whatever they choose to drink. And they have beads and they're, passing out these beads. This is, uh, you know, right before, well, it would have been a year before COVID. But, this was a prime example of waiting for the decisive moment. So I have my camera and I have a 50 millimeter lens and I'm right along the parade route. And so I'm just waiting for people in this parade to notice me. And this is one of my favorite ones because he's like, you can see that he's going to put the beads right around my neck. And the other kind of weird thing, well, it's odd to me, but it's probably a cultural thing, is they kiss you when they do that too. So luckily I had my camera around my neck and there was not a lot of opportunity for them to do so. So that was good on my part. So, just waiting for those moments. And then again, you can kind of see some of that repetition of other things I'm looking for, like that drama or expression. So, it's not necessarily like meditating, like, that you would be used normally meditating, in your home. It's more of like just paying attention to my breath, really focusing on the visual because, when you're in a big city or there's lots of things that are happening around you, your senses can sometimes get really overwhelmed. And so I'm taking that time to breathe and really focus on what's happening around me visually. So then the other thing, is just trying to calculate what might happen and, really just sort of analyze the scene and where you're at. I was really hoping that one of these two would turn around also, or both of them at the same time. And I stayed there forever hoping that would happen, and it just never did. But, I still ended up liking the image, and there's, kind of an interesting, I get a totally different feeling now with just the dog looking at me, like him and I share a secret or something like that. I oftentimes, when I shoot street photography specifically, I will not have my camera up to my face. Oftentimes, I have a hand strap, and so I will put my hand strap on with my camera, and oftentimes I'll walk in and out of scenarios where I can take images with people not even knowing that's happening. So this is a prime example of that, where I can get this angle that I wouldn't get, plus it's awkward, it's totally legal for you to photograph on a city street. Even if someone tells you, it's not legal for you to take a photo of them, it really is. But you don't want to make people feel uncomfortable, and you definitely don't want to put yourself in a situation where you could have harm put upon you. Same angle here with the dog. I love getting some sun flare and just things that I hadn't really expected to happen in the scene. So I'm usually always looking for that as well. This series here was taken at night, again, in New Orleans, and I wish I would have taken a tripod with me. I don't know why I didn't even think about that because, New Orleans is way more interesting at night than it is during the day, although it's very interesting during the day too. But you can see with this, I used, there was a fire hydrant right near this man here, and I used the fire hydrant to stabilize my camera as best as possible. And I like this portrait of him quite a bit, but I also like the movement of the people behind him because it shows a little bit more of the vibe on that street corner. Reflections is another thing that I'm kind of really focused on right now as well. That's, something else that I'm constantly looking for. So I just kind of wanted to walk you through my thought process. This is just a small part of the street photography series I'm working on currently. There's, several other collections from other cities, but this will kind of just hopefully give you an idea of how my brain works anyway when I'm out shooting and looking for the decisive moment.